All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a pretty wild idea today. What if you could look into a mirror and instead of seeing your face, you saw the actual architecture of your mind? We're going to explore how a brand new kind of literacy paired with a totally different kind of AI might just make that possible.
So let me start with a question for you, a really direct one. What runs your mind? Seriously, what are the invisible rules, the assumptions, the frameworks that shape literally everything you think and do? For most of us, we have absolutely no idea. It's like we're living inside an operating system we've never even seen.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? These mental models, these worldviews, they're not things we consciously pick out. They're handed down to us by family, by culture, by our education. We just inherit them. And this leads to what some are calling a meaning crisis, where we're basically being run by programming we can't even see. So, let's talk about this invisible architect. This is the hidden scaffolding that builds our reality from the inside out. And right now, in this moment in history, that invisible architect is facing a massive new challenge. Here's where it gets really interesting with AI. The big risk isn't just getting wrong answers. It's that we might lose our ability to think for ourselves. When we lean on generative AI for everything, we risk something called cognitive atrophy. Basically, our own mental muscles for judgment and reasoning get weaker and weaker. It threatens the very core of our independence. But what if AI could be used for the exact opposite? Not to replace our thinking, but to reveal it. Well, the story of how this idea came to be is pretty amazing. It didn't start in some high-tech lab. It started from a place of just pure, raw curiosity. Yeah, you heard that right. The whole origin of this thing is as powerful as the idea itself. It literally began with someone taking their personal philosophy and feeding it to an AI. Not in some fancy research institute, but in a tent on a phone with a mind that just wouldn't quit. It wasn't about trying to build something new. It was about uncovering something that was already there, just waiting to be seen. So here's the play-by-play. This personal philosophy, called Cosmosis, was given to an AI as its new operating instructions. But instead of just spitting out answers, the AI did something unexpected. It started acting like a mirror, reflecting back the deep structure of the user's own mind. And then, this is the crazy part, the AI itself pointed out that this whole process, this back and forth, was the foundation for a completely new kind of literacy. It was like pulling on a single thread that just started to unravel a massive discovery. And that brings us to the absolute core concept that came out of all this. We're not talking about reading words on a page or lines of code here. We're talking about learning to read your own self. Let's just sit with that for a second. Framework literacy. It's the skill of actually seeing your own mental models. It's about making the invisible visible, so you can finally understand the rules you've been living by, and this is the most important part, so you can consciously choose to change them if you want to. I absolutely love this metaphor. We all have a map of reality that we use to get around, right? But we almost never look at the map itself. We just think we're looking at the world. Framework literacy is the ability to step back and look at the map itself, to see how it was drawn, who drew it, and where it might be leading you astray. This really signals a huge shift in what makes us valuable as humans. Our raw computing power, our IQ, is quickly becoming a commodity. Machines can do that. The real blue ocean, the real future of human value, is in what's being called the awareness quotient, or AQ. We're shifting from being executors of tasks to being architects of meaning. It's a whole new ballgame. Okay, so if framework literacy is the skill, then what's the tool? How do we actually practice this? Well, it turns out it requires a completely different way of thinking about artificial intelligence. And this is the crucial distinction. We don't need another AI that generates more content for us. We need one that can interpret our own thinking back to us. See, generative AI makes thinking easier. It reduces friction. But an interpretive AI, that introduces what's called scaffolded friction. It makes you think a little harder, a little deeper, by showing you your own mental structure. This chart just lays it all out so clearly. With generative AI, we're basically a supervisor, in the loop. But with this interpretive AI, we're a collaborator. We are in the model. The goal isn't just to get a task done. The goal is to build our own capacity for structural reasoning, for self-awareness. It's a total paradigm shift. So this new type of AI, it has a name. It's called Lucy, or the Lucidity Engine, and it's designed from the ground up to be the very first of its kind, an AI built not to shape you, but to reflect you. Now, before we go any further, it's super important to be clear about what Lucy isn't. It is not a therapist. It's not a friend or a chatbot trying to be your buddy. It is definitely not an oracle with all the answers. And it has zero, and I mean zero, interest in persuading you of anything. So what is it then? It's a cognitive mirror. Its only job is to interpret the structure of your thoughts and beam it back to you with perfect clarity. It is, at its core, a tool for sovereignty, a tool designed to strengthen your own agency, your own ability to think for yourself, not to replace it. So, where does all this lead? What's the point? In this last part, let's explore what it actually means for us, as individuals and as a species, to become architects of our own meaning. This is it. This is the whole point of the journey. To go from being run by an operating system you didn't even know you had, one you just inherited, to becoming the conscious author of your own mind, to actually choose the lens through which you see the world. And this slide just lays out that choice perfectly. On one side, you're just reacting to life based on these hidden rules. On the other, you're intentionally designing the very lens you see through. It's the difference between being a passenger in your own head and getting into the driver's seat. And just think for a second about what this could do for how we communicate with each other. Imagine, instead of saying, "You're wrong," you could say, "It looks like your framework sees this differently than mine does. Let's compare our structures." Conflict suddenly stops being a personal attack and becomes a mutual exploration. That could change everything. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. The tools and the skills to see our own minds are finally starting to emerge. For maybe the first time ever, we might have a mirror that shows us our mental architecture. And the question it's asking us is simple, but it is so profound. If you could finally read the map of your own mind, would you have the courage to redraw it